What's happening, everybody? We're out here on the lake. Cold out here on the lake. Wind's coming off the lake pretty hard today. So what we're going to do is use the Johnson Sidewinder. There you go. Some of you were curious about it, had never seen one before. So today we're going to see just what this thing's capable of. I've seen them, but never had one. Now I've got one and we're going to use it. So let's quit talking so we won't freeze to death out here and try to catch some fish on this thing. Can't make no promises there, but we're going to give it a shot. I mean, you don't know if you don't try. Let's try. Well, it doesn't cast too bad, but the problem I'm having is that the wind is coming pretty much right at me. So it's cutting down my casting distance drastically. Not huge amounts of wind, but enough that it's catching that little bait and it's just kind of blowing it back. I'm using 6-pound line with a 16th ounce squirt jig, and it's just blowing it right back at me. So what we're going to do is we're going to move over there, see if I can cast from that point at a 45 with the wind, and then see if we can get some more distance and maybe hook into something out there that's hungry. I explained that like a professional, like I've been doing this all my life. I have been doing this all my life. You'd think I'd be better at it. Okay, over here I can cast this way kind of with the wind, and maybe something will happen. Or I can cast here and let it take my lure over to the right. One thing that I'm seeing about this reel that they could have benefited from back in the day was the crank arm itself. I mean, if that thing were about another ½ an inch longer, it would have made a little bit better in the rotation, because right now you just are making these little small, and what I'm wondering is if any of the other Johnson reels maybe carry the same cut in the middle, and you might be able to use like a Century or a Citation crank arm on this thing. Just thinking out loud. We got one. Of course, I didn't have the drag set good. There we go. A Sidewinder bass. All right. Little Sidewinder bass. I can't begin to tell you how happy I am I caught something with that thing. So as I said before, it could definitely benefit from the crank arm itself being just a little bit longer, because that you're really, I didn't have the drag set good. I thought I did, but I didn't. So if that had been any bigger fish, man, we'd have had a mess on our hands there. But it was good. I felt good. I could feel the fish. There's more I'd like to say, but we're going to wait for just a moment. While the fish maybe are on, let's try again. There you go, another one. And on a color I was not expecting to catch anything on. I have to throw a shout out to John Dalton at Creek Fishing Adventures for that color, because it's one of those colors I've had laying around that I've never used. And I saw John using it in the creeks and the rivers, catching fish with it, and I said, you know, I got the things, I might as well give them a shot. And I did, and there you go, first bass on that weird color. Got to take some pictures now. Anyway, we'll throw him back out there. There are fish out there, even as cold as it is. They're out there and they have to eat. You can't go all winter without eating. Gotta eat something. So let's go with a quick how-to on how this thing works, all right? Silver button, that is your release, okay? What you're gonna do, just like with a spinning reel, you're gonna grab, well, I grab the line with one finger. You're gonna grab the line, push the button in, and you cast. You just have to remember not to reel backwards, because this thing will go in reverse. Okay, that's all there is to it. And it is really easy to cast with one hand with a 3-weight fly rod that used to be 6'6", which is now probably 5'11", because I broke part of the tip off. But now it sets the hook better, a little bit stiffer. So I'm cold and hungry and the battery died, so I changed it. What do we have to say about this thing right here? I liked using it. That's the best thing that I can say about it. It is fun to use. On this fly rod, it casts pretty easy. It's not bad. What I probably will do is drop the line size down to 6 pound, 4 pound, sorry, it is 6 pound now, to 4 pound, probably trout magnet. So I can use it more for crappie, maybe trout, and panfish and stuff like that. Is it for doing this? No, it's not. But the fish are on the bottom out here and they're cold, and that's the only way that I'm going to get them, is worming like that. So that's what we did. We caught 2 good sized fish. Unfortunately, on the first one I didn't have the drag set very well. But hey, that's me. This is how it is. I need to get a shirt made up that says "Set your drag, stupid." What can I say? Anyway, the Model 80 Johnson Sidewinder. It's fun. What could it benefit from? Okay, as I said before, the crank arm is pretty short. Probably about that much longer would be awesome, but it is what it is. It has no anti-reverse, okay? So when you set the hook, you got to have your hand on the crank itself. You got to be able to rear back and hold on with both hands. Otherwise, you're not going to really set the hook. You're going to just yank line out of the reel. That is a downfall. It's not a great thing by any means. But if you really look back at it, a lot of the reels that were coming around that had anti-reverse, well, their anti-reverse was still 3-inch spin before it actually engaged. So, but at least it had it. This doesn't have it. So that's the 2 downfalls to this thing. It does cast pretty far, even coming out of the side with it dragging like that. I did have a couple of times where the button didn't want to release the pin so I could cast. I'm not sure what that was all about, but I will go back through it again, clean it up. And this will definitely be at the campground, and I'm going to be catching crappie with it, and bluegill, and maybe some smaller bass and stuff with it. But I would love to get this thing in a river. I would love to get this thing in a river and catch some trout. I think that would be a blast. Speaking of catching fish, you have to remember when you get the fish to the bank, you can't just lift them out of the water with this, because it is going to spin backwards. So you have to grab the line with your fingers and pull to get the fish out of the water so you can grab them and lift them. Otherwise, it's just gonna, you'll just keep reaching and reaching and reaching and not understand why your arms are getting shorter. It's one of them things. Anyway, for those of you who commented on the last video about the Sidewinder, I hope this helps you out slightly now that you've gotten to see one, because a few of you said, hey, I've never seen one of those before. I had seen them but had never owned one. I got one. Thank you, Dan Selvig, for that. I appreciate that. So anyway, there it is, the Model 80 Johnson Sidewinder. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. I'm freezing.